The Lightning Process podcast. Using the tools of the mind-body connection for health and happiness. Hi, Dr. Phil here. Welcome to this episode of the Lightning Process podcast. Today I want to talk about some research that I flagged up in one of the previous episodes about how is it that thinking about things, remembering and recalling positive memories can have an effect on our physiology. Does that really work? Well, some latest research, as I record this in 2023, is just out. It is the latest part of a series of pieces of research that support that where you place your mental focus, so what memories you think about, affect how your body actually works, how your brain functions, and how your body works. And this one is in the field of positive psychology. I've got some notes, so if you see me looking down there, that's what I'm doing if you're watching the video. Positive psychology is an offshoot of psychology, which came around in about 80s, 90s, where suddenly they realized that all the research into psychology was into problems, so like depression, psychosis, schizophrenia, which is all really important research. But they also recognized that when they Googled and searched for how do people get happy, what makes for a good life or fulfilled life, there's virtually no research on it at all. So the kind of focus of research has been in problems, useful stuff, but nothing was being done about, well, what about most people who don't actually have those really severe psychological problems? What can we learn about what it's like to be a human and to make everyone's lives better? So that's kind of where positive psychology landed. It was like, okay, what does the research say? What research can we do to identify what makes a difference, what makes life better? So that's positive psychology. And this study is specifically on a positive psychology technique, which is called savoring. Now, savoring is another word for remembering and immersing yourself in a positive, powerful memory from your past. So in meditation, you can do that. You can focus on that time when you're on a beach. In self-hypnosis, you can do it. In guided imagery, you could do it, remembering what it's like to be in a lovely place. So that's what savoring means. And the study they did specifically was, how does doing that, savoring, taking yourself back to a memory, how does that affect your experience of pain? And they did this with a group of people who had rheumatoid arthritis, so some experience of pain. And they did two bits of the study. The first was divide them into two groups. One group had just a simple exercise of breathing. Now, breathing is a calming technique that's used in many spaces and places, and to see what would happen if you just did breathing, kind of gentle, slow breathing. The other group specifically were trained in how to do this savoring technique of going back to a time where they had a really lovely experience of being calm and relaxed. And this is something that we do on the Lightning Process. We talked about this before, we asked that question, okay, when was the time? Take yourself back to that time when you felt that way. So that's a savoring technique. And what they were particularly interested in is we know that meditation and positive psychology interventions have had some effect on people who've got pain, but trying to identify which bit made a difference. Was it the breathing? Was it the thinking about positive things in your future? Was it taking yourself back, savoring to memories of the past? So this is what this particular study was interested in doing. So they were comparing what is the result of this slow breathing, being trained to do that, or trained to do savoring and recalling positive times from the past. And the first part of the study was just to compare how are these symptoms affected by these approaches. So, of course, we've got these people with rheumatoid arthritis, which involves pain and joint swelling. So to check in with them, go, what's it like before? What's it like after? Does it make a difference? And compare the two outcomes from either just slow breathing or from doing the savoring. And what they found was the people who did savoring had an improved sense of comfortableness in their joints, reduced redness, more movement, more general well-being. So it seemed like there was a significant shift in just doing savoring as compared to just doing your slow breathing relaxation techniques. Now, one of the issues with these kind of studies is, first, we've got to have a big enough group. This is quite a small group of about 44 they had in this study, and dividing them up into two arms, it's about 20 each. The second thing is, when we have what's called self-report, which is how does that feel, there's always a question like, well, are both people measuring what it was like before and what it's like now? Are they all measuring the same things? So the other part of the study they did was an fMRI study, which is functional magnetic resonance imaging. And in this, when you've had MRI scans where you see the parts of the body you can't normally see, with fMRI, you're looking particularly at blood flow and activity of those parts of the brain. So you can see which parts of the brain are working, which parts are active, which parts are quiet. And what they found was, so they took them into a lab and they gave them two stimulus. Okay, so one is just a warm heat and the other is a slightly painful heat. So they're comparing these two things. And again, they said, right, we're going to do this for you. I'm going to give you these experiences of warmth and of pain, warm pain. And what we like to do is to use your new technique, your breathing technique, or your positive psychology, savoring, taking yourself back to a positive memory technique. And then we'll observe what happens in your brain. We'll also measure, how does it feel? You can tell us what you think. What they found was, again, the people in the savoring part of the experiment were able to feel better about the painful heat stimulus, but also there was a change in the brain function. So you didn't see the same degree of activation of the areas of the brain that process pain. So we're seeing a different effect from just slow, gentle breathing from savoring. And savoring actually helps the brain to process the information differently. So therefore, we're not experiencing pain the same way. Now, when we experience pain, a couple of things happen. First of all, we activate different parts of our brain. We have the feelings of pain, but also the area that we're getting the pain in, we actually send signals down to change the physiology, to change the inflammatory response, because it feels like there's something going on there that needs some attention. So in this experiment, what we're seeing is a really great example of how by savoring, by taking yourself back to a particular memory and immersing yourself in it, you're getting a change in how it feels, how your pain experience is, reducing it, making it more comfortable. So that's useful to know. Secondly, a change in which physical parts of your brain are being activated, particularly the areas around the deep structures of the brain, around what's called the nucleus accumbens, which is an area that's all about reward and processing emotional information. But that whole area around there, which is also very closely related to the pituitary, then triggers the production of hormones throughout the body, because of course our body has to know how to deal with stress and threats we've talked about before. It also affects the front parts of the brain, which are where we process information both emotionally and cognitively, working out what do we do. So very, very important areas of the brain are being stimulated, normally in pain. And in this particular experiment, when people are calming themselves down, getting themselves really into a good state by taking themselves back to a powerful memory, it changes how the body physiologically responds to the stimulus of direct painful heat. So I hope you found that interesting. If you want to know more about this study, drop us an email. We'll send you the links to it. There are loads of other studies that support it, but this is the most recent one, so I thought it would be interesting for you guys to find out about. I'll see you on the next one. The Lightning Process Podcast. Using the tools of the mind-body connection for health and happiness. If you'd like to know more, please visit us at lightningprocess.co.uk.